So welcome everybody to the very first episode of the FrojeCast. Today we have a very special panel of guests who are all very involved in the 3D printing community. Printing the fun stuff, not the lame stuff like tools, but the fun stuff like firearms. Everyone just want to go around and introduce yourselves. We'll start with Mr. Dinkler, the returning fan favorite from both channels.
I'm Dinka Roubles, the designer of the Grosent. I've got the Baby Bolter in beta. Got a few more projects on deck, but the Grosent's the one that's out there that everybody knows.
Okay, and Mr. Nikolai.
Hey, I'm Nikolai.romanov. I currently haven't released any designs, but I am working on several projects in beta, primarily suppressor testing, or suppressor development, not testing. We don't actually test our own designs.
Of course not. Of course not.
That would be very illegal.
That's bad.
But yeah, we wouldn't do that. Follow your local laws. But suppressor development, and I've been lurking in the community for a long time. But some of the stuff, we got to come out and talk about it.
Well, that's why we're here tonight. Or I guess it's nighttime for you guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's night.
It's night.
Yep. Evening.
There you go. Evening. All right, and PLA+boi. What have you been up to? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm PLA+boi. I am the designer of the FTN suppressors, and fellow DEFCAD victim.
Nice.
Fantastic phrasing.
All right, and last but not least, we have...
Hi, I am UberClay. My first release was the Recession Ruger. I have released the Big Mac, the Mordaka, and the OK Zoomer after that. And I guess I am also a fellow DEFCAD victim.
Excellent. Well, let's just open it up there. So, what is DEFCAD, and how were you victimized?
Well, I can start, I guess. So DEFCAD, I figured I'd give you the objective rundown, and I can give you my take later.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
DEFCAD is a company. Yeah. Perfect. So DEFCAD is a company. It is associated with Cody Wilson, who became famous in 2013 when he unveiled the Liberator, which was the first, 3D printed pistol or whatever. And so his company works on the model of selling memberships. And one of the perks of the membership is that you get access to these files that were not created by him or licensed for him to distribute. Oh, well, I guess, I got to be careful with my words because like the words distribute and other stuff have legal connotations. Well, they were never intended for him, or there was no permission for him to distribute or sell these files. And so that's where the controversy arises.
Okay, I think a lot of people remember the Liberator from that Vice documentary from years and years ago. I think I saw when I was in college. It's the same guy, right?
Right.
The little
right. Fully printed 22 single shot pistol.
Right.
Yeah. And just for clarity, since we are trying to be precise with language, there are devs who do work with DEFCAD who do put their stuff up there willingly and intentionally. But what we're going to get into later is it's piecing out which one of those guys is up there on purpose and with permission and which ones aren't.
Right, for sure. And so out of all the people that actually do work with DEFCAD and have given their permission for their stuff to be uploaded and redistributed and ultimately sold, do you know how many of them is this like is this some sort of like, I'm going to donate my design and time and you can sell it for your organization or movement here on this website, or are they getting paid for the memberships, or how does that work? Is there any compensation to the actual designer?
My understanding is that the guys who are intentionally putting their things up there with permission guys like Laughs Dynamics or Black Lotus Coalition, are developing and then using DEFCAD as their distribution for their files. And they've also got other sources that they distribute through. But then they get a percentage back whenever somebody downloads their stuff. So that's their arrangement, to my understanding, is that, hey, we're giving you this work, and then you're compensating us whenever it gets downloaded.
Right, so under normal circumstances, there is compensation for people who do work with them.
Right.
Like which makes sense. That's not outside the realm of possibility. Like that seems like it's a pretty decent practice. But how did you guys find out that your stuff was on DEFCAD, even though none of you have ever actually said, hey, please throw up my design, please pay me? Like, this was just straight up, like, you found out through a third party that it was on their site. Like that's correct, right?
Right. I actually found out through PLA+boi on Twitter. He made a post about it, and I had seen similar posts from other people before, and it got me curious, and I went and searched myself up on there and found that I apparently have an account, and my designs are up there.
And this is the same for the rest of y'all?
I'm sorry.
Oh, this is the same. Like, this is how the rest of y'all found out as well. Like, just through a third party, like you randomly found out you had an account.
Yeah, well, so I'm actually. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, but it's rumored that they just host. I mean, I was aware already that they were hosting files without permission, and it didn't surprise me. But one day, I went and checked to see, how much of my work that they had posted, and so that's how I found out originally.
And how much of your work was actually posted?
Well, those 4 releases that I've done with Deterrent Suspense, those are posted. Oddly, yeah, none of my little caveat Odyssey stuff is posted, but they might not know where to get it or have taken the time to find it. Like, I've got some remixes and some little, something like that Recession Ruger that looks like a C96 but takes grease gun magazines. That one is just on my Odyssey, and they just probably haven't found it, because I think if they wanted to and they knew where it was, they would host it, despite however I felt about it.
Similar story. The 2 things that I found on there of mine are the 2 that were published into the catalog. Stuff that I've published to Thingiverse or to my personal Odyssey, remixes and other designs haven't made their way to DEFCAD.
So for me, actually, the first item that I saw was the FDN2, which came out a few months ago. And I was subscribed to their email list, which is free, because back in the day, I found them. And then once I realized it was a paywall, I didn't join. But it kind of kept me up to date on releases in general. But after I released my FDN2, which was not in a catalog release, that just ended up my own personal Odyssey. I saw it on the newsletter that they sent out, so I clicked on it, and it's funny because Dinka, you went through the exact same like emotional responses I did. I clicked on their page, I saw my profile on there, and it says that you can message me and follow me, and then where are these messages going? Who knows?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make that clear. When you go there and you find one of us, at least us 3 or 4 guys, can't speak for everybody, but when you go there and you click on one of our designs, there's an option to click on the designer to see what other listings they have, and it goes to a profile, and it looks like we're legitimate. We're putting our things up there. Like, this is my profile. This is where I'm hosting my stuff. That's not me. I didn't make that. You can follow it. You can message it. You can friend it. All this stuff. But I don't know who those messages are going to. You're not friending me if you're following me. That's somebody else, and I don't know who it is.
Could you guys show any screenshots of what it looks like, just so they can see like what you guys saw when you first discovered this? I mean, because it's got to be pretty odd seeing hey, message me for help or message me for support. Okay, here's one. So yeah, so this one here, this is from PLA+boi. So apparently, 302 people have downloaded your designs. I'm assuming it's multiple. It's counting all of them.
It's actually
Yeah.
not,
Oh, it's not.
interestingly, because that's no. Because the funny thing is, so I put out the FTN3, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, but on that one, my creator is
Oh.
the creator is listed as anonymous. Even
Oh,
though they
okay.
credit to me later on, they actually don't link it.
And so they did. So they changed the name, like to anonymous, like from
Yep.
anonymous to PLA+boi later. That's what happened, or
Well, if you look at the description, it says by PLA+boi, but then if you go to the creator, it says anonymous.
sure.
And
Okay.
also, just for scale, so I'm at 163 downloads on one, and the other
Yeah.
one is at 302.
Right.
So together, that's 460.
Yeah.
They charge $60 per membership.
Right.
I don't know if all of these guys are new members, but assume they are, and I don't know if they charge per file, but we're talking about $27,000.
Right. And
Right.
you know for certain that it's some people who are new because you were reached out to by a guy who signed up specifically for those.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about
Exactly.
that. You did mention that before. Tell us about that. What happened there? And what ultimately came of that as well? Like, what was the when you informed this person of what was going on? What happened? Like, what was their response?
I will have to check and see. I never got follow up on it. I think he thanked me for the information, but I threw it up on your screen here. So basically, this guy asked me, he's like, "Yo, I paid $60 and this shit won't work. What am I doing wrong? Like, I'm DefCat support or something." And so I responded to him and gave him a link of where the free files are, and I told him to do a chargeback and clawback on his credit card. I'm not sure if he ever followed up on it, but I hope so.
Right.
And
And
just to
so,
be clear,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
$60 is the minimum amount they might ask for. Because if you look at their membership page, and I can get the screenshot here in a second, they have higher tiers of membership, and it's all billed annually. So you can't just pay for $5 for 1 month. It's $60 annually.
Oh, okay. Which that actually would be interesting to see the different tier system that they're utilizing. But to go back, so you mentioned to him that you showed him where he could find the files, assume the files that would probably work for free, right? So for free is what I also wanted to touch on. So all of you guys, you guys have posted everything that you have ever created on sites other than DefCAD for free explicitly, right? Like
Correct.
you've never charged a penny
That's right.
outside of what DefCAD has done. No money has ever been charged for your designs.
Correct.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And I've also released mine, and I'm sure some of these guys have too, under licenses that are specifically non-commercial.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to touch on that as well. Yeah, so well, I'm seeing here. Nikolai posted the memberships here. So we've got an individual for $5 a month. What's that get you? Secure access to the DefCAD, the world's largest 3D gun file repository. Okay, early access, latest LEGIO news. LEGIO. Am I dumb, or is that does that acronym?
That's
Should
their
that mean something?
company.
Oh, okay.
It's their side corporation.
Sure. Okay. Membership can be
The
canceled
Legio
anytime.
is what you have to sign up for to use DefCAD.
Oh, okay.
That's where the money is technically going.
Okay. And so for the $7, you get litigation support. I don't know what that
What does that even
exactly
mean?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
And to back up, for reference, these guys are lawyers, right? So Cody Wilson is a JD, and some other people. I'm not sure if Garrett is his brother or somehow related, but I think there's multiple lawyers that are running this operation.
Okay. Which I mean that I could see like giving them the benefit of the doubt and everything. Like not saying that they're being a lawyer's a scumbag or something, but like that's actually kind of a good thing on the end. If I was going to be using this service, I'd be like, oh, they're lawyers, they know what they're doing. Um, But when I see litigation support, I mean, I'm sure, I hope that's defined somewhere. But like, if I'm just the average Joe, I'll be like, oh, they're going to go to bat for me. Like,
So I think that's for devs more. Now, this is a wild tangent, so we don't have to go down that road, but there's a lot of history between also Freeman, 1337, and he was sued by Everytown for, I believe, defamation. And at that time, there was a relationship between him and DEFCAD. But anyways, that will take up the whole hour just to go into that. So
Right.
well, can you just
And
give us the?
for people who
this has
don't,
been tried.
Yeah,
for people who don't know, Freeman's one of the founders, admins over at the Deterrence Suspense, the Gatalog.
right. Right. I was going to say, could you just give us like the little like 30-second version, like who these people are, and so like
Oh,
what
yes.
what was involved in the defamation suit and what ultimately happened, if you know.
Well, it got dismissed in the end. It just, it took 2 years, and there's a whole bunch of bad blood there between, DEFCAD and Freeman and some
Yeah.
other people. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't know intimately the details of why they started out fighting it together, but then early on there was a separation. I don't know. I'm just going to speculate, but from what I can tell by DEFCAD's other behavior, they were probably reprehensible. And if I was getting sued by somebody in New York, and my other party was, I thought was ethically unsound, and were to put me associating with them would put me at greater risk, I would probably have done the same thing.
And do you know what the like actual defamation suit involved? Like, what was the actual
Well,
meat?
I am not a lawyer, but I think it boils down to they utilized an old trademark law in New York, because what happened was, as a troll, Freeman put the Everytown logo on a magazine, and New York is or a high capacity magazine, I guess you could say, and then FedCat hosted it, and I probably, with Freeman's permission at this time, I don't think there had been a formal separation, and then they got hauled into court. I don't think it was I don't think it was defamation. I think it was a trademark infringement or something, some shit like that.
I think you're right.
Definitely something that should have fallen under parody or fair use.
Right.
But yeah, they got sued over it.
Okay, and you mentioned FedCat there. So what's that? Is that a different organization? What's that?
No, it's a derogatory term that I use to describe DEFCAD.
Ah, excellent. Is there a reason it's FedCat instead of like shitcat or something, or as a joke or a parody? Like, does it have some other meaning to it?
I mean, they just act. They. I'm not saying that they're feds or that they're working with the feds, but they give off some weird signals sometimes. So
I think what he's
and
trying to get at is the information they ask for.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's true.
what kind of information? Like when you sign up for the memberships, or some in that respect? Or?
Yes, they require
Yes.
Social Security, or they used to. I don't know if that's still there, but originally you had to give them a Social Security number to be a member.
Huh.
So, little backstory. Where our other files are hosted by design, they can be downloaded not just for free, but with complete anonymity. And
Right.
that's because we want to future proof this work in the event that our pastime becomes politically incorrect.
Right. A little too
And
spicy.
so
Yeah.
that's right. And so by design, we make it so that you can anyone that has access to a computer can download these files and archive them. Use them today, use them at a later date. But we don't want anyone to have to give up any personal information to do that.
Sure.
That's a great point, because that's actually one of my takes on the situation, is that DefCAD is not one of us. So, most of GunCAD is this cyberpunk, decentralized, Rage Against the Machine type of people. But if you look at DefCAD, I mean, if you look at the fine print on even their website. So you cannot access the website from New Jersey. You cannot access the website from out of the United States due to ITAR. So they completely work within the system. They are a part of the system, like the old system. So they are the old guard. It's like buying crypto on Robinhood. I mean, yeah, you're buying crypto, but you're still doing it in the old rails, if that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. And I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit. Going back to what Dinka brought up with the license, I think it was Dinka, with the licensing that you guys actually have with your files, like who can use it, what has to be done, yada yada. I mean, the spirit of that, it's especially because you guys aren't selling them, and you, like I said, decentralization, all great things. It seems like to me, either the FCAT doesn't care or they don't like that. And if you guys want to go over I only saw one license that was being used for these files, so I don't know if you guys are all using the same sort of licensing. But can you go over what is allowed with your prints, what's not? If they have to attribute you, if they can change it, do they have to send you files back, like the GPLv2 or something? Or is it more just do you guys even have a license? I guess because, like I said, I only saw one.
Yeah, my or these 4 releases that I've released in the last, I guess it's been year and a half. I was pretty naive and thought that, I wasn't expecting, except for maybe, a small time shady character on Colts or something, to want to sell files. I wasn't anticipating that they would be hosted on DefCAD. And so I literally would give full permission to do anything to my files other than sell them. So if you want to give them to someone, if you wanted to host them on your website to draw traffic, if you wanted to remix it and say, this is my work, or this is my remix, that is great. And you know what? If FedCAD would put it up without the paywall, I would not like it, but I wouldn't. It would bother me, 75% less than it bothers me right now.
Right.
Same.
Agreed, wholeheartedly. What I use for mine is Creative Commons non-commercial, so just attribute and don't sell it. Those are the only restrictions. Other than that, you can save it, transmit it, remix it, re-upload it, send it to whatever. And honestly, even a step further than UberClay, I would be happy for them to host mine if it wasn't behind a paywall, if they weren't selling it, because it's an additional archive. It's more backup, because these sites have shut down before. The catalogs had to move hosts 3 or 4 times. And so this stuff can get lost. So the more that it's out there, the harder it is to get rid of it. But the sticking point is, I don't want you or some other random person to profit off of the sweat off of my back, and I'm choosing to give it up for free. I don't want anybody else to have to pay for it. So, at least I didn't scrub my name off everything, but don't charge for it either.
Right. And I think that's the crux of it, because I did see the screenshots. I think it was Clay that sent the shots of they're like where they're defining what FOSS is in their own words. And they even used the whole like Richard Stallman, like gratis, not Libre, not gratis, right?
Give me a break.
Trying to justify charging, which is fine. If you create something, if you want somebody to pay you $5 or $500, that's your right. That's your prerogative. And if you say, "Hey, I'm releasing it under Creative Commons license," like that's even better. Like you can define how it should be used and how it can't be used. But has anybody seen from them? Have you? I mean, in general, I guess, have you heard anything back from them after you tried to talk to them? And more, if yes, did they tell you, "Hey, yes, this is why we've taken it. and this is why we can legally take it and then resell it. Like, have you guys heard anything to that effect?
So I've sent them a couple of I've sent them a couple of emails, which I never got a reply to, but I did take an opportunity in I guess a public setting and asked Garrett a handful of hard questions. This was before they had an incident where somebody basically stole. It was a leak from a beta for some rails for a design, and somebody catted them up and sent them to DefCAD, and they posted them not behind the paywall, which to me was like is almost an indictment, because the answers to my questions were like this. Why are you hosting Freeman's accessories when you know that he doesn't want to? Hasn't Freeman asked you to take these down? And why do you refuse? And if you're going to insist on keeping them up, why do you insist on keeping them up behind a paywall? And the reasoning I got was that, well, it's we don't care if the creator doesn't want us to put it up. It's free and open source, but they have to have it behind a paywall because it's gun stuff and it's keeps them legally protected. Blah blah blah. Well, that was at least plausible deniability until those beta rails got put up without needing to have it, and that was just out of spite, right? Because they're petty and there's some bad blood there. I was like, well, look at that. You actually can put some stuff up that's not behind the paywall, right? So
Right. So it's not
get-
it's not it's not like if we don't charge money, it could be considered illegal. Like, it's no
Right.
longer a defense.
Yep.
And this is anecdotal, but we had a discussion about this on Twitter, and there were people that were saying that they've requested that their stuff be brought out from behind the paywall. But it sounds like the only people who've been successful are people who have already partnered with DefCAD and are already like creators for them, who are saying, hey, list this one for free. If it's your normal guy like us who gets their stuff uploaded and you email them like, hey, take my stuff down or take it out from behind the paywall, stonewalled. You don't hear anything back.
Well, actually, so I did email them and I did hear back from them. And so it was a lady, and she replied back and she said, hey, well, we can talk about it. We can talk about licensing and so forth. And then I emailed back and I said, I understand how the licensing works. Also, I want to get into that, by the way. And I'm asking as a courtesy, would you take it off? And then they responded back with, well, let's do a Zoom call and talk about sponsorship. And I said, I'm not interested in sponsorship. I just want you to take the files off. And I hadn't heard since then. But I want to touch on one thing, which is the concept of FOSS. So FOSS, as in like FOSSCAD, like the old repo on GitHub,
Right.
is a old term. And actually, embarrassingly, I didn't know much about it until this came up and I was prepping for actually us talking about it. The FOSS is an old concept from the 80s that was developed by some MIT computer programmers to create open source software. So unfortunately, as it turns out, DefCAD is correct. If you restrict like a non-commercial license, like the way that Dinka has, it is not FOSS.
No,
Because
by all
you are
means,
restricting the
Yeah, that's correct. I mean,
So-
in the strictest sense of the words, like the MIT guys are talking, the Free Software Foundation, they would consider what Dinka has done to be not free. It is no longer Libra software because he's defined you cannot sell it, and you have to attribute
Exactly.
it. And yeah, while Richard Stallman and his people who came up with all this entire philosophy would probably and not be very happy. The fact of the matter is that Dinka has the complete authority to do that with his work. I mean, legally speaking, he is well within his rights. I mean, ethically, you could debate it. That's fine. You could have that debate. But as far as I know, I mean, the entire FOSS movement, I mean, that is generally respected. I mean, unless you get into like the whole like ethical hacking thing, like proprietary software in general is for the most part respected. I mean, at least on the surface level. But you're completely right in that.
And the way I feel about it is that, well, these were all developed by a bunch of boomers. It has no bearing, and you're exactly right. It was a different. It's respectable, but it was for a different environment, a different set of issues. And I think for GunCAD, we need to come up with our own universal license that
Right.
does incorporate what we believe. And I actually have been working on that, and I'm going to send that out to you guys later.
Right. And I was actually going to bring that up as part of, well, I guess we kind of are in the like later half. But I was going to say, so I know you've used the Creative Commons license, Dinka. I mean, I'm assuming that's because you thought it was good enough for what you were releasing. But in this instance, I guess I don't know how you enforce it with no teeth. I don't know how you stop somebody from doing this. I know if this was like a site like YouTube or something, for instance, like in any one of my meme videos, if I ever used music or something that was not in the Creative Commons or was not for commercial use, I mean, YouTube's little AI algorithm thing instantly knows. It's like, nope, demonetized, sorry, which is fair. I can't deny that. Like, this is what you've told me I can do with it, and I'm bound by that. And YouTube's just keeping me honest, but I'm still bound by that. Is there some other license that you guys think would be better suited? I don't know how much you guys know about like the GPLs or like Creative Commons licensing, and this is more of like a intellectual property kind of discussion, I guess. And I don't know how well versed y'all are in that. But given the nature of what you guys are doing, like Clay said, the Rage Against the Machine kind of shit, wanting to decentralize everything because this is a human rights issue. I would assume you guys would say, freedom of information and freedom of self defense, that sort of deal. Is there a license that you guys think you could develop or should be developed by somebody to help protect the like decentralized nature of your designs?
I'll post the text of the license for the last release I did. It was the Canic Boskert, and I got some advice on trying to get a license that was not going to be, wasn't going to affect the ability for people to freely distribute the files, but would perhaps, generate some complications down the road for someone that was selling it. So.
Right.
I think, honestly, the best situation is we don't need a license. We shouldn't need a license. But it's because of things like DEFCAD that we're putting licenses in. Because we're worried that somebody is going to maliciously take advantage of our work and steal our rights, even less so than the money.
Right.
Our right to say what we want to happen with our work is really what they're taking away from us. That's the more stabbing thing that gets me, is that they're not allowing us to say, no, you can't put a paywall in front of our work.
Right. And
I don't want the money.
And
I want them to have our stuff freely available.
And in their, just to play devil's advocate, because I know what they would probably say to that. They would say that, well, you have posted your own files like in other places, and they're free there, so people can, if they wanted to, they could go and get them for free. We're not inhibiting their rights to take your designs for free from somewhere else. Like, that's what they would say. Not that I agree with it, but I'm sure that's the angle that they would try to play.
Well, a practical application or
they do
implication with that
violate the licenses we put out there.
Well, yeah, that, and it's the way that the audience that they target is people who are new to the space, who don't realize that they have a reputation for being sketchy, and don't realize that everything else is available out there on Odyssey, on the catalog. At Black Lotus Coalition hosts their own stuff. Are We Cool Yet hosts their own stuff. All these dev groups, and so people don't know it's free. And if you go to their website in their About Us section, they make a very concerted effort to say this is the only place you can get this stuff legally. This is the only place that hosts these things. And so they're preying on people's ignorance. So, and then once people, and you hear that story a lot, I'm new to GunCAD. I got excited. I Googled printable AR lowers, and I found DEFCAD was the first result on Google. And so I signed up, I made a membership, I paid $60, and then I found it all for free on Odyssey. What's the deal? Why am I paying $60 for this? Well, people are stumbling into that trap.
So
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Additionally, they also. Sorry, PLA+boi, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was only going to say that they have recently claimed to be the catalog.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
wow.
That's right.
Oh,
in one of their
to
angry
go,
blog
what's that?
posts.
Oh, a blog post. Could you guys post that link? I can pull it up or something. Just
I
to
have to try and
Yeah.
dig it out.
confirm
But
here.
they've
If
got
you
a
guys can.
blog that they put out.
It was an incendiary email.
That's what it
Is
was.
how I found it. I looked today, and those there's been a couple of those that have come through in the email that aren't in the quote unquote blog section. I'll find it. I kind of wrote a response publicly a day or so after.
That's where
But,
a lot of
so
the
I think-
like bad blood comes from. Just the childish mudslinging in public forums, like their email lists, where they'll put Freeman on blast and they'll make a whole bunch of accusations that are not grammar checked and don't make a whole lot of sense, like claiming to be the catalog. Or it's weird and sketchy.
And if you look on their Legio website, I posted the link in our Discord chat here. They have entire articles on Freeman where they just shit on him.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it would not be a stretch of the imagination for me to think that perhaps they did do something maliciously. I'm not saying that they are. I can't say that definitively. But given the history that they have with him, I can see a situation which they may have posted those rails knowing exactly what they were doing.
oh, it was a total, yeah, it was it was totally petty. There's no way that anybody would believe that with the waters under the bridge that wasn't just some kind of dig. Which I'll tell you, the real shame of it is that I get it. There's bad blood, and you want to do something to get back at the guy you're mad at. But what if that gets somebody hurt? I mean, that's betas are betas because we're trying to make sure that the stuff is safe for the general public, and you're actually risking you could be risking someone's safety doing that because there could be an issue that's trying to be worked out with a select group of people, and you're just going to throw it out there to the public. I mean, that's like one of the most risky and unethical things I can even think of.
And that's another thing I've heard people. Sorry.
They have posted just straight up unfinished projects without checking into the files, and when there is updates to files, they just don't update them.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Leaked betas, unfinished and abandoned projects, old stuff like the old FOSCAD mega packs. A lot of that stuff was like untested and out of spec. And of course, that stuff is old. It's as far as this is concerned, ancient. But when you're rehosting it without verifying that it's safe, it's a hazard.
Well, and you're obstinate and you choose not to really work with the creators except on your terms. You have no way of curating that stuff, right? And so,
Right.
this is speculation, but there's a guy in France who intentionally defiles these files and then puts them back out on the web, right? And his idea is that if I can get enough people hurt making 3D guns, it'll be less popular,
Right.
or it'll try to take some of the stigma out of it. So what happens when one of those things gets sucked up into FedCAD, right? And it gets put out for download.
That guy has been doing that for years. He was just in the news again the other day. They re-interviewed him. He's still at it. He just take these files and sabotage them and redistribute them. So if you're not getting them from someplace that you can trust, someplace reputable, you're running that risk.
Me as a creator, I could look at my own design and I could tell if it's been monkeyed with. But if you're gonna if the only way that you're gonna have a relationship with these creators is on your terms, and you're gonna be obstinate, well, they're not gonna be involved, and somebody there, at DEFCAD is not gonna know the difference. So
no. Well, one thing I want to touch on is what Dinka said earlier, which is that the only way they make money is on new entrants in space and their ignorance. So it's like if you went to Rome and when you step off the plane and then there's a guy who sells you like a map for like €5 and you say, well, I need a map. Sure, I'll take it. But then come find out the map is actually free, provided by the city to foster tourism or whatever. So that's exactly what DEFCAD's doing. They add zero value to the GunCAD space. The guy who gets conned for €5 is never going to go back for repeat business. They had an opportunity. They could be adding value. They could say transparently, "Hey, files are free, but if you sign up for their $60, we'll troubleshoot your first print. We'll troubleshoot your Glock trigger not resetting or whatever. Or we have a search function that's better than Odyssey. So files are free, but here's our value added, right? Because in capitalism, which I do believe in, you make money by providing a service or providing like fixing an inefficiency, not just grifting off of these newcomers or new entrants. So if the same dude is like, well, welcome to Rome, here's a free pamphlet, but for €5, I'll tell you where the best sites are. Now they're adding value.
Right. And so does DefCad? I know they originally created the Liberator, right, years and years ago. Do they still make their own prints? Like, did they actually have a team that? Okay, that was
absolutely
what I
not.
understand
The
was
only thing they do, right? The only thing they do is they render the models and then put them up on the site. Their business, as far as Defense Distributed is concerned, primarily revolves around their Ghost Gunner 3 now. It's the third iteration, and their upcoming Coast Runner, cleverly renamed home CAD machine, which I'm sure they're going to upcharge. And basically trapping people into using their proprietary software, a machine that really isn't all that great in the first place.
Okay,
and
I want to stop you there. So you said proprietary software, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, go into that. So the FOSS
You
people
triggered the Linux man
who are justifying their theft of your stuff, right? They're justifying the theft of your guys' designs because FOSS, because I can, because it's ethical for me to steal it and put it up somewhere else. That's their argument. Is that software is FOSS. All software, regardless of what license it was released under, is FOSS. It is all Libre. It's mine. And then they sell you a device which can only be used via their own proprietary software, which is not FOSS by definition. Like, if I can't see the source code, it's not FOSS.
Right.
And that's what's happening, like, to the best of your knowledge.
Isn't it ironic?
It's not ironic. And that's Microsoft's that's Microsoft level douchebaggery. I can tell you that. Because going back to
they are all the same people. So they're all of this stuff. It all funnels back into entities associated with Cody Wilson. All of the stuff that he does, I feel like at one point maybe he did have noble goals. But if I look at it now, all I see is money.
Right. Money corrupts people, I guess. Allegedly, supposedly, in case he's listening.
Well, there are things we can talk about.
Yeah.
I almost think at this point it feels like that because I listened to, for those interested, go listen to his Out of Battery interview. I mean, you listen to that guy, and I kind of get the sense that, he is mad that the community isn't embracing him and his practices. And so now it's like, all right, well, fuck you then. I'm going to steal all your shit, or I'm going to post your shit. I don't care what you say or what you do,
And I can't know what goes on in his head, but given what I've seen, like I said, I was first introduced to him years ago, where he was like, "Oh, I'm the point of internet freedom. We're gonna be internet anarchists here and distribute guns for free." Like it was like a big political thing, and I'm like, okay, like cool for you, like do your thing. And it seems like every time I see him, he gets a little bit more like pompous, from my perspective. And I do wonder, I was going to ask, like, is this just an ego thing? Is this like, I am the king of 3D printed guns. It was my idea. It was never thought of before me. And this is mine. Like, that's because that seems to be what, because if you read the description on their site of his definition of, free software, like that's pretty much what this is mine. Like, I can do this. Like, you own nothing. But at the same time, I'm going to put it behind a paywall. And you have to get my permission.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the public image that he has created for himself. more than anything. I don't think that we can any of us can authoritatively say that we know he's doing this for his own good.
Right.
But based on what we can see, this is what it perhaps appears to be.
It definitely appears to be this way. And yeah, we can't know his intentions, but we can definitely know his actions. And it certainly seems to me, I don't make any gun designs at all. I'm a parasite. I just take your guys' stuff and, and print it. I just take it and print it. Have fun.
That's spreading the signal. That's what we want.
Spreading the signal.
Oh, it really is.
But yep, that's the whole idea of putting this all out for free. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, but I was saying is just me, like just the nobody. What's the I guess what's the appeal? Like what drives you guys to do what you do?
Because for me, it's the right thing to do. Sorry, Dinka, I didn't mean to interrupt you again.
No, I was just turning my mic back on.
Oh, okay. I mean, for me, it's the right thing to do. If I look at the way the world is, I look at everywhere outside the United States is hilariously cucked. And even in the United States, hilariously cucked in a lot of places. Most of the states in the United States, I don't think you can legitimately say that you're free. And I would even go so far as to argue that income tax is a massive infringement on all of our freedoms, but that's neither here nor there. But if you look at what's going on around the world and even in the United States, the amount of authoritarianism that's going on, regardless of what political movement it's associated with, I am against that. And to me, the only thing that stops the authoritarians is people that are not going to go along with it. And the only thing that's going to help those people is firearms.
And me and Nikolai are both suppressor devs, right? So specifically, the suppressor laws in this country are just so insane and so far from reality.
Right.
And we have a chance here, right? So if we can get enough suppressors out there, enough printed suppressors or unserialized suppressors, even if they're all in Texas, we can make it untenable, like marijuana or braces for pistols. We can make it actually truly impossible for them to regulate them if we can get enough out and get it somewhere close to common use. So that's my personal crusade.
Right, because even just beyond the practical limitations of how do you enforce this if they're just out there, there's the legal idea of common use when it comes to gun control. And, Glock switches are kind of starting to go that way. All these wish switches that are showing up,
right.
The gun grabbers will crusade, we're recovering thousands of these illegal modifications a day. It's like, well, if there's that many of them out there, it sounds like common use. And the way the laws around gun control are written, you're not supposed to regulate things that are in common use. And so if you can get enough of this stuff out there, you can start to build a legal standing for the people like Firearms Policy Coalition who are going out there and fighting the legal battle. You've given them some footing to stand on to hopefully push back some of this draconian laws and start getting some rights back.
Right.
And if you want to go even further, if you want to talk about the way that these things are made, the way these laws are made, who is legitimately going to use a suppressor in a crime, right? I don't know, maybe a few criminals. What are we using suppressors for in our day-to-day, right? If you go to the range, why are you using a suppressor? Because it's going to save your hearing.
Yeah, generally.
Right, and ironically,
about a machine gun.
In Europe, they're required safety equipment.
Exactly.
Right.
Where it's super restricted, they're required in most places in Europe.
So the idea of restricting suppressors is based off of the idea of a movie quiet suppressor, and that you can use it in a public place with nobody hearing you, and it's so scary.
Right.
When in reality, they're just another tool that can get you 10 years in prison and $250,000, and you're a felon, and you can't own guns for the rest of your life.
Exactly. It's a law that's 100 years old now. Think about that. It's almost 100 years old.
Right. Well, yeah, we could say that about the NFA in general. But yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so as far as suppressors go, I can definitely see what you guys are doing there. And then I would say that's a noble goal for sure. Like I don't think it's impossible or out of the realm of possibilities. Especially if more and more people, like you guys said, the people that DefCAD get are the ones that are new, right? So there's so many new people coming to this, and that it's not something that's dead in its tracks. It's growing. It's probably in 10 years, God knows how many people will be out there, using your files. So I think that's definitely a valid goal. But so if we're talking about non-NFA items as they currently stand, so like Dinka and Clay, I don't think you guys just do regular guns, right? Like there's nothing spicy.
Yeah, correct. Everything I do is within the confines of current U.S. law.
Right.
Yep.
So what's driving you guys to do that?
You want to? Yeah. Okay, I can. For me, it's just the ideal that my work will go to support, if anyone that needs a gun can have a gun. I believe in universal armament. I'm not saying that correctly, but I'm a 2A absolutist. So I think that the idea that you're a felon, you can't own a gun. I think that's unconstitutional. I think that the government telling you how you can defend yourself and keep your family safe is an egregious infraction. I think that the only way that we can stem the authoritarian and overreach is with a density of small arms and a decentralization of manufacture. So you never know who's making them, and you never know where they are and how many exist. So all of these old gun parts that are floating around because the courts made them destroy the frames. Well, we have files that you can put those guns back together in a 3D printed frame, and you can have a working firearm. So I do that for absolutely no money, and I give it away absolutely free to anybody that wants it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want to echo everything that these three guys have said, and all the high end political and ethical concerns, but also all the way down to this shit's just cool. I mean, I'm a gun guy. I love guns. I love going to the range. I love collecting. And so to push the bounds on a new tech, come up with new designs, things that the industry won't touch. Nobody's making a bullpup AK, except there's one company that sells them, and theirs is 3D printed too. Or like Clay was saying, resurrecting dead designs or dead firearms and bringing them back to life, putting these parts back to use, or just coming up with really cool stuff like the Uratow. It's one that's coming out soon. It's bullpup 9mm, fully DIY, which gets into the skirting regulations and freedom and all that sort of stuff. But also, it's cool to be able to make something and put something together, put something out there, give back to the community. That's what got me into designing and developing. As I was doing what you were doing, Frog, for a long time, I was just, oh, that's cool, download, print, make something, take it to the range. And I did that for a couple of years, but then I was like, I want to give back. I want to put some designs back out into the space and give back to this community. And, so there's all the lofty political goals all the way down to guns are cool. And I don't see anything wrong with that position either.
Right. I definitely on board with you there. I've seen a lot of cool stuff. I mean, especially the whatchamacallit, the MP57 like that.
Yeah,
I think I should do that. Yeah, it's an MP7 frame
can't get on the market.
Yeah,
right. Or things that are real guns that the companies refuse to import them, or they just refuse to sell. So like 5.7 clones, MP5s. There's a FAMAR. You can make a FAMAS now out of an AR and some printed parts. There's just so much cool stuff out there that you just can't get. You can't go and buy a FAMAS unless you're like Grand Thumb, So, but you can make one, and you can have FAMAS at home. So, the next best thing. It's basically the same thing.
P90, right?
Exactly.
Which is NILOG and the UMP.
Yeah.
Right. and that's pretty much where what I was always interested in with the 3D printed thing was, I mean, it obviously democratizes firearm ownership like to the hilt. Like I don't understand how it gets any more democratized than that, unless people start sending out Ender 3s for free or something. Like I don't know how it gets even more accessible than it is. But
Rep exists.
Right. Well, the thing that kills me though, and I don't know if you guys can actually shed a light on this. So, if I were to go out to my barn and buy a piece of sheet metal and start with my brake press, and I make an AK receiver, right? And I buy an AK parts kit. I rivet it all together, do my thing. That's completely legal, right? As far as last time I checked, completely
Since the founding
legal.
of the United States.
Don't need to put a serial number on it. Nothing. It's unless I sell it.
Always been legal.
Right. Okay. Now we keep running into this issue of like ITAR. Like I understand, some foreign entity could theoretically download some quasi working 3D printed file from DEFCAD that probably is going to explode and maim them from the sounds of it. I get that there's that, but like you could restrict your site, whatever. That's neither here nor there. What is the actual difference between me printing a receiver, like an AR receiver, and then putting it together with a parts kit? What is the difference between that and milling the receiver in my shop, if any? Because there seems to be a massive focus on 3D printed firearms, like the ghost gun thing. Like, oh, you can buy this kit and make your own glonk. No one will ever know. Like it's a new thing.
The only difference is that it's just lowering the bar of entry. It's getting it out there for more people. It's getting it into more hands. Like the Ludi has been around for what, decades now. But how many Ludis have you ever seen? Because you need machine shop. You don't need a machine shop. You need tools. You need some power tools. You need some skill and some know-how. And then if you're going to mill an AR receiver, you need a CNC machine. Or if you're going to bend an AK flat, it takes some skill. Pretty much anybody who can read a guide or watch a few YouTube videos can buy a $99 Ender, set it up, run a couple of test prints, and then fart out an AR-15. It's making it more accessible to everybody.
Sure. And I can totally understand why that makes people scared. But like DEFCAD, they say we're the only legal where is it? I'm gonna actually pull it up here really. There's one that says they're the only legal file hosting site essentially.
I think that's BS, by the way.
I was gonna say, okay, can anybody shed some light on that? Because I don't see how that's possible. When I could just
legally protected, maybe
legally protected, sure.
Not, so their whole deal, the reason that they get all of the information and verify who you are, is because they were worried about getting taken into court over ITAR, which really more applies to nuclear weapons, F-35 avionics, which they get sold anyways to China. They just steal them by hacking. But
ITAR being the regulations about exporting military equipment to other countries.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah,
the thing that War Thunder kids do.
Right.
Yeah. Dinka brought up EAR in our pre-planning. I don't know how those are different, but it's all the same thing. It's export law restricting data that they're worried about somebody outside of the U.S. downloading it, and then them getting in trouble with big government. Why is Odyssey still around if that's the case?
Exactly.
Because Library didn't die based on them getting taken down due to ITAR violations. They died because of another reason. So now we have Odyssey, and we host all of our files on there. And if they took that away, what else do we have? We can torrent. They always say you can never stop the signal.
I've seen all kinds of gun frames on GrabCAD, and there's until they find them and take them down, they're stuff on Thingiverse. I mean,
they'll just list them as airsoft. And,
absolutely.
Thingiverse doesn't know, and who are they to say it's not airsoft?
So I'm not, they like to say that they're the only legal way. That's bullshit. I don't see how that I don't see how they're legal and me putting it up or Catalog putting it up on Odyssey isn't. As far as way I understand it, code is protected speech. So I can put that shit anywhere. Well, within the United States maybe, but I'm not so sure that if it's out on the internet and somebody finds it that lives in Pakistan or wherever, I don't know if I think that there's any real applicable enforceable consequences. But hey, maybe if somebody in Pakistan bought it from you and you sent it to them on a disc or something, they could get you. But just having it
even then
online,
I don't even think even that. I mean, who knows, right? Like, I mean, I'm going to preface that statement with, it is 2024, and we've seen crazy things that are completely unconstitutional and like asinine happen. Yeah, like they're completely asinine.
Like the auto key card.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a picture of parts that, when assembled, don't make a fully automatic AR-15.
Right.
But you're going to go to jail as if they were.
Well, and I mean, it is draconian and horrible what happened there, but like, I can, like, the 2 points that were made with that was, when he got depositioned and him and his wife got depoted in like Miami or something. They actually complied and went to the ATF field office and didn't have a lawyer with them and talked. I mean, that's the first mistake. The second one was like in multiple videos from years ago, because I remember seeing it. I was like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "This is a lightning link."
Yeah, right.
We called it. I mean, it's the intent. Yeah, which is
intent and OPSEC are important.
All bullshit. Like that's it didn't work. It's a drawing.
You should do better crazy. Than to poke the ATF like that.
He should, yeah. But I mean, it's you should have known better. But at the same time, it's like, this is asinine. Like you're getting done in for a drawing that happens to be on metal. Like if I drew it on paper, is that illegal? Which is not.
Something else to state about the ITAR stuff before we go too far away. Sorry, not to cut you off. But that argument is a very Mero-centric perspective. And granted, most of us devs are here in the United States, but not all of us are.
No, some were in was it Myanmar?
Well, the FGC's got taken to Myanmar.
Yeah,
but Jay Stark was German, I think. He was European.
Yes, he was. He was German.
The Uratao's coming out of Brazil. There's several of these bigger designs that are not from the US. Right. So, if you want to argue export laws, there are domestic designs all over the internet from wherever is domestic to you.
Right. And I mean, I personally don't know how ITAR comes into play at all with any of these designs. Like, because like you were saying, that generally applies to actual technology. Like, generally speaking, it's actual technology or
physical
plans,
devices.
Or I mean, like, there have been instances of like actual plans like being leaked, which are not supposed to be, and that violates ITAR. But like you said, it's for like avionics, it's for night vision devices, things like that. Stuff nukes. That you nukes. Stuff you generally want to keep like out of the hands of your potential enemies.
Right. Personally, if ISIS gets a hold of a plastic lock, they're not going to conquer the world.
I don't think ISIS cares if they got an FGC-9. I don't think that affects their capabilities in any way. So I don't know how it affects ITAR at all.
When
3D
I want my recreational McNuke.
Yeah, I want my 3D printed.
But you're going to release the uranium refining device. Come on. I need a centrifuge.
3D printed carbon fiber tubes.
Yes, that's what we need.
But going back to the actual legality of the site itself, like we were saying, with a drawing or code is not in any way illegal in any state that I am aware of, other than unless you fall victim to a predatory justice system,
Well, there are states that prohibit the distribution, and I mean, there's a lot of weird laws in certain places. I think New Jersey is one of the worst ones. People that live in New Jersey or have IP addresses in New Jersey are not allowed to access DEFCAD's site because they have received multiple cease and desist letters from the New Jersey Attorney General.
Oh, okay.
So There
Which
are
is
states
ironic.
that have
Right.
laws on the book that prohibit the distribution of files, among other things. We'll
Sure.
just say that.
Okay.
That reminded me of something I wanted to talk about earlier, not to go off on a complete tangent, but I think it's relevant, is talking about cease and desists and DCMA takedowns and that sort of thing. You know, that might be a logical criticism that could be levied against us guys. It's like, well, if you don't want your stuff up there, why don't you just DCMA it or tell them to take it down? And the trouble is that people have done that and it just gets ignored because what Frog was talking about earlier with YouTube, and they've got their automated system that pulls your music down, all that sort of stuff, that relies on the goodwill and the compliance of the hosting site, YouTube, to comply with those takedowns. If they didn't have that automatic thing and they said, kick racks, we're not going to enforce it, how would you ever enforce that? There would be no teeth. So since DEFCAD doesn't want to enforce creators' requests to remove things that are up there without our consent, what can we do? Well, you could say, well, you take them to court. But part of that is all this legal stuff we've been talking about. The reason that all of us are not here with our faces on our names on display is remaining anonymous is very important in this space because it's a political hot button. And even if you're not going to get the government kicking your door down, you're going to get some anti-gunner Karen on social media who's going to try and cancel you and dox you and put your stuff out there and send people, you know, whatever. So privacy is very important in this space. It goes hand in hand with most of us. And so the trouble with getting into actual legal courtroom litigation is it breaks your anon. You got to put yourself out there, tie a name to it, and you're exposing yourself. So they know most people aren't willing to do that. So they know that they can comfortably disregard that stuff with very little chance of there being any actual consequence. And then if they do get consequences, they take that one file down, whatever.
Right.
They keep going with the rest of them.
So they're leveraging.
So not only are they all lawyers, but the amount of money they make,
Right.
they can easily pay for their own court bills.
Right.
Joe Blow here that's making suppressor files, we don't have that kind of fucking money. We can't just make $27,000 in 24 hours off of a bunch of people that didn't know any better and pay for our court bills or pay for our brand new Audi or whatever.
They know the dev community can't wage lawfare, so they feel comfortable in just ignoring us, basically.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the money thing for sure. And sorry, I was just saying, so it's the money thing for sure. Like, obviously, I was going to bring that up. You know, not everybody can afford a lawyer, and they could easily just represent themselves, probably, and be fine. You know, theoretically for free.
Right.
But they're also they're also leveraging the fact that you value your right to anonymity. You know, like that is also a right at play here. And they're essentially, you know, holding a gun to your head and say, do it. You know, that's what it seems like, because they know, like they should know, because I don't know the extent of how they've been approached by the U.S. like justice system. But I know they've been involved with it multiple times over what they do, and they know it's a hot button issue. And they should know, like I would think they should know, the average Joe doing this stuff probably doesn't want to get drugged through the coals like they did.
Right. And for people like Clay and I, it's lower risk. If we get doxxed and it gets put out there, we haven't done anything wrong. It sucks, but whatever. Nikolai, PLA+boi, you know, they're dancing that line. You know, there could be actual, you know, legal interest. And then you get people like Freeman who, in that whole public saga about their litigation between Freeman and Gatalog versus DEFCAD, they were very publicly doing everything they could to expose who he is, to break his anon, to get a name, and they were goading him. Like, you know, there was a certain point in the case where if Freeman didn't make a court appearance, he would lose some point that they were trying to argue, whatever. And so Freeman, of course, didn't, because he values his, you know, anonymity. And so they were dragging him for that and giving him all sorts of grief. And so maliciously trying to dox people that are against them. So if you're going up against them, you're some small fry like us. You're like, geez, Freeman, a leader of the community, is getting put through all this. What am I going to do? I don't want to go through all this. What are they going to do to me?
So this is a perfect segue for my hot take on all of this, or I guess my conclusion after thinking about this for a long time. So basically, so DEFCAD works through the legal system. And what they do, for example, for me, the GPL license, what they have done is legal, but it is immoral. So I am a suppressor dev. Like, what the fuck do I care what's legal, right? So what I view suppressor printing as illegal, but it is ethical, it is moral. So I think that putting all of our hopes on the correct license or operating within the old rails of the justice system is not the right strategy. I think that if we tried anything like that, like how what Dinka was talking about with Freeman, they are going to just steamroll us. That's their home turf. That's where they win. Honestly, it doesn't matter if we have a license at all for all the reasons that Dinka mentioned. So I think going through the license stuff, like all the stuff we talked about earlier, is it's fun from an intellectual perspective, but consequentially, I think the only way to fight this is put the word out that files are free and starve them. The that's I think where we can win is by spreading the truth. If we
Yep.
can starve them out and cut off their source of income, that's our home turf. That's where we can actually influence things.
Right.
Yeah, and to add on to that,
right. Oh, go ahead. Go
Defense
ahead.
Distributed and DEFCAD, they all have zero obligation, zero legal obligation to use your money in a way that they need to or have to. So they are not a nonprofit organization, which has a couple of implications morally, tax implications, legally, but they are under no obligation to use your money to, as they pretty much claim, defend the Second Amendment in the courts. I believe that's the public stated, oh yeah, we're going to use this money to defend the Second Amendment through lawsuits, through lawfare, right? They are under no obligation to do that. For all we know, because of their complete lack of transparency, that money is paying for cars or perhaps I want to say something that's going to get me in trouble here. Paying for
But it's being used as
illicit
personal income.
transactions.
Date night.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. There's no guarantee that it's being put towards a proper, good moral use.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
It could very well
Especially
be used
emphasis on the moral.
immorally in a sickening way. We don't know. You can only speculate at what it's being used as. But yeah, going back to what PLA was saying, yeah, if there's no teeth, there's really no way to enforce anything, and like you guys have just demonstrated, there's no, unless you're willing to take the bullet and the massive legal bill, there's not much you can do, and ultimately, what's the reward? Like you get your personal designs taken off of this big site. Okay, like you've won a small moral victory, but everybody else is still, getting their shit ripped off, uploaded, and they're still making money. And you've just footed a giant bill to lawyers, and you've doxed yourself. So yeah, I don't know how you actually put teeth on any license at that point. If they're behaving this way and no one actually has the ability to, I don't know about the Freeman guy. I don't know whatever, if he's still litigating against them, if he's still fighting that battle. I don't know what happened to him. But if there's no big win to show them, like, hey, you can't do this, you could, have any license you want. Like, if you re-upload this without my permission, I can chop your balls off or something. Like, there's nothing that will stop them, no consequence, unless it can be enforced, like you were saying, PLA.
Unless you actually chop their balls off.
unless you physically go to their house with a hatchet and chop their nards off at night. So, like, what's the alternative? I guess too. So we have the catalog. We have. I mean, there's many file hosting sites, but obviously none are as big. But I mean,
Backloaders Coalition, AWCY. Right.
And do you think any of them could get to the point where, if I'm Joe Schmo and I watch some random Grand Thumb video and I'm inspired to go print a gun, and I go buy my little Ender 3 and I come home and start Googling, is there any way you could see another site other than DefCad being the first place they go as of right now.
Catalog's going to be the best option for that, and there are a lot of people that, word of mouth advertise for them, especially on social media. Everywhere from like dedicated making, images that say, don't tread on me, go print guns at the catalog, or to people who will come in and commentate on some senator wants to, pass some gun control law. And they're like, well, that's a shame that I can just go to the catalog.com and download all these guns for free. So you get that word of mouth stuff. But unless it's like pushing to the top of the Google search results,
right,
you're not going to reach the people that aren't already engaging as much.
Right.
And the catalog does, a lot of the stuff, like I said, they're the primary, they're the big boys, but DefCad definitely comes up at the top of those results because they probably pay for the ad space.
Not
not
only
just
that,
like-
they
Right.
also have their ghostguns.com. It's the same people that run that.
If you type in 3D print guns on Google, catalog isn't even on the first like 2 or 3 pages. They're so far down. I think there's actually room for somebody to compete with the DefCad, like an ethical model, like with a subscription or a better search function that actually does add value. I think there's room for that, and they would actually do well.
And that's something
Right,
that stinks about Odyssey is their search is so bad.
It is.
You
it
can't
is bad.
find anything.
It is really bad. Yeah.
And so if you're trying to
Basically,
track down, if you're trying to track down these individual little devs, unless you know their name and their channel, you're not going to find it. Or heck, even if you're looking for something in the catalog, I was looking for Glock magazines the other day, and I typed it in on Odyssey. It didn't come up with anything printable. It was just videos of people printing or using printed Glock mags.
Right.
I agree with PLA+boi. If there was an organization or a group that would do what DefCad originally intended, which was just act as an archive for all these different designs, just as a backup to collate everything into one place, that would be awesome. Bring in all the Black Lotus Coalition stuff, bring in all the Are We Cool Yet stuff, bring in all the catalog stuff, bring in all these individual little creators on Odyssey and cults and everybody who wants to upload their things there. And even if it's automatic, if it just scrapes it and uploads it there, with the caveat, it's not behind a paywall. And if somebody says, I don't want my stuff on there, you take it down. That would be incredible to have a centralized archive of all this stuff that's searchable. But I don't know. I'm not capable of running something like that. That's a big ask.
Well, it's not even.
Yeah.
And there could be some.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Good. Oh, I was going to say, there's going to be ethical ways to make money off of this. So, like Hoffman Tactical is a great example, right? Or let's say Riptide Rails, PY2A. There's a lot of people who add value to the space and actually still make money off of it. And I think there's like the DefCad model. So let's say some of the membership fee goes towards a bounty. So I want a like 10 millimeter AR or whatever. And then whoever claims that bounty gets it, but also that now licensed through, the ethical DefCad. Or they can say, hey, Dinka, you made a Grozent. Can I get a sick reskin? And this will be the exclusive, whatever, catalog version or whatever.
Right. No, there's a million ways you could do it. Like, and I think it from the sounds of it, I would have to look at the other sites and see how robust their search systems are and everything. But I mean, it's not something that would be impossible to make. The problem that I foresee, and I think this is the reason why a place like this doesn't exist, is because unless you're hosting the server yourself, in a server farm in your bedroom, you're at the mercy of any web host. And I don't know off the top of my head any other than the really kind of scummy web hosts like Sealand or something. I don't know who would actually allow this.
And that's the thing is it does come under attack from
and especially because you'd have to comply with each individual state. Like New Jersey, I'm sure California is on. I'm sure Massachusetts is probably going to be on that list too soon, where they say, hey, you can't have any visitors from these IP addresses.
It would have to be like a Pirate Bay situation where you're based someplace where the laws, if they don't protect you, they don't come after you. And you've got the ability, the technical ability, and the financial ability to host it independently. You know, but the Pirate Bay is,
So
I'm
back-
sure, on the back end, a huge organization.
Well, do you remember when the catalog used to host? I mean, this was before Odyssey days, and like that was during Keybase days. If anybody's been around since then,
Yeah,
but the
it's
catalog
until they
when they
got
first
deplatformed.
started, oh yeah, that's true. Just like Odyssey might, but the catalog did host the files themselves.
Right.
But then they bumped up to what we're talking about. You get malicious people trying to pull it down. Yeah, and they got deplatformed. They got removed from Keybase. They had to, find a new home. They ended up on Library, which became Odyssey, and Rocket Chat. Go join their Rocket Chat. Check out Control Fuse Getting Started Guide. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Word of mouth stuff. Go do it. You're listening. You got this far. Go check it out.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know for the FrojeCast. Who knows, man? Because people watched that other one we did when we were making fun of Shit Show 2024. That was actually got some views, so we might have a good 100 people who made it this far.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Spread that signal, though. But that's the thing, is we are spreading the signal.
We are. I mean, ultimately, YouTube's going to cut. If this does get any traction, it's going to get cut. It's done. They flatten that line, flatten the curve, as it were.
But sharing the link around and that sort of guerrilla
that's great.
style, getting the information out there, you're reaching an audience that we're not going to reach.
Yeah.
And this is the best way to push back, like we were saying earlier, against malicious groups like DEFCAD, who are preying on people who don't know, is to inform those people before they get into the space, because your audience is on the edge of 3D2A. It overlaps with gun culture and memes and that sort of stuff. And so do we. And so there's going to be some crossover. And so that's kind of the people that I'm hoping this reaches. Because if it just goes to other 3D2A guys, we already know all this stuff already.
Right.
It needs to get out there to people who are new.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to meet any real. I mean, generally speaking, I don't think I've ever met a gun owner that wasn't pro Second Amendment. To almost absolutist. I mean, you're going to get the people out there that are like, well, I don't know about that. You're going to get those, but I've never met a person who owns a gun who wasn't interested in 3D printing guns. So, you've always got an audience there, just tangentially. They're going to be like, oh, that's interesting. I can get basically a free Glonk. Show me how to print the Glonk, please.
For the price of a slide and a barrel. Boom.
Right. And, you're going to have those people, which is cool. But
this is another benefit of what Dinka. What Dinka and UberClay are doing. So, if you see enough recession Rugers, or you just see enough of Grozons, or whatever else fire build is out there, and you're like, that's it. I'm ordering a printer, a $99 Micro Center Ender 3. So that's another benefit of what they do is, there's more designs out there and it gets more screen time. Eventually, it's going to wear someone down and they're going to be like, yep, that's it. I'm ordering a printer.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like with the recession Ruger, sorry, buddy, that thing's ugly as sin. But that plays to it because it sticks in the mind.
I love
people see that, they're like, what is that thing? And then they start asking questions, and that opens the door to get them involved.
I love how the Grozant guy called something else ugly.
I was just going to say, didn't you bolt up an AK? You're
See, now, this is how I've got the authority to recognize that it's hideous, because I put out shit that's hideous too.
See, I know you're ugly because I'm ugly.
Well, I see it every day in the mirror. I am an expert.
That's fine. I get where you're coming from.
But it starts conversations. And then there's been developments and remixes and things that have made it look really fucking cool. So somebody might see that thing, they're like, the original base model, they're like, what is that? And then they start looking into it and they're like, oh, I can make it look like the blaster from Fallout, or I can make it, have all these whiz bang gizmos on it. And I'm kind of doing similar with the bolter. A lot of my audience on Twitter now is 50%, 3D2A and 50% Warhammer people who've never printed a gun in their life. But they saw the printed bolter and this is fucking cool.
And I can say that's the exact same situation with the channel. Since we had the baby bolter video, which I mean was like nothing, right? It was
Yeah, we were just out in the woods messing around and impromptu filmed a little short.
Let's shoot it. And yeah, I have a random like almost 100 subscribers who are expecting like more 3D prints or like 40K shit. Like random
picked up
kids,
all these 40K people.
Like random children.
Channel.
Like why isn't it in 50 caliber? Why isn't it be more accurate lore wise? It's like, okay. Like I know you're 12, but here's a 3D printer. Go make a gun.
Let's not get the 12-year-olds making guns. But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
do not advocate for that.
No. I would never advocate for children to have the right to defend themselves. Never.
No, of course not.
That's wretched. But yeah, there's a lot of crossover, like you were saying, and I think that you could spread the word and grassroots this stuff, and it would make a dent. But yeah, I mean, I ultimately until like Gaddle or somebody. Some Chad who decides to have the files hosted in his mom's basement and run a site at his own risk until someone like that steps up to compete. Like I don't know how you beat them. Like that's just my thing. Just from a practicality standpoint. Maybe in like 10 years people will be like, hey, these guys are shitheads, let's go over here to Odyssey. Like maybe you'll get that as people become more I don't want to say computer literate, but just more aware that there's not a monopoly on these files, that they're out there in the ether for the taking. Like the only thing I could think of would be like a LimeWire situation. Remember back in the day, some Napster shit.
Like, trouble is, like,
just a
P2P
sharing system.
People are forgetting how to torrent. Like,
oh yeah,
boomers don't understand what torrenting is.
They don't.
They look at it like arcane technology, and I don't understand how torrenting vanished. Like that's one of the most.
You saw Hoffman. His last couple of micro releases were torrents.
Yeah, he just dropped the seed, and most people are like, "What's that? Is this your phone number? Is that what? Is this a password to something else?" It's like it's a torrent seed, guys. Like drop it into LibreTorrent and download a gun.
These are GPS coordinates to the prize.
It would take a minute to get that embedded, with enough depth, but that's not a bad idea. If you had a dedicated community that was willing to, enough people that's willing to host the seeds.
Yep. Seed, baby seed. Because
or hell, why aren't we throwing these up on the Pirate Bay or other torrent sites?
I don't know why you don't. I don't know why you guys don't. Personally, I would assume it's because just you'd have to have seeders. And there's probably not many people who are willing to seed, but if there were, they're not high enough to actually and Pirate Bay is really bad. I don't know if you tried searching for stuff recently, but like it's really bad. I could type in, I'm looking for Stranger Things, and like 20 different porn titles come up before I get what I'm actually looking for.
Right. You got to filter it by category and stuff.
You really do.
I mean, part of that's a product of being huge, and part of it's a product of being put up and pulled down 12 dozen times.
No, I'm not blaming them. That's just the way. It's the facts. If I typed in Grozen, who the hell knows what kind of degenerate shit I'm gonna see before I actually get to what I'm looking for. Like that's my thing. But I mean, if you guys made your own like P2P system, like that, like I think that's valid if you had the seeders.
And that's more noble, but I think using the existing infrastructure that everybody already knows the Pirate Bay. Like name me a second torrent site. We might be able to come up with one or two, but if you ask most people, like
they won't know.
That's the one. Right. So like I don't know why we aren't. We should be doing that.
Right. Well, and I mean that's Linux. I mean it's still like most. I mean I can't think of it. Like I've been trying like distros lately, and I can't think of a distro that doesn't have a torrent seed where you can torrent it directly. So there's a lot. It exists, but yeah, like you have to be a fucking nerd at this point,
right?
Like average guy doesn't know.
That opens up, avenues for attack, like we were talking about earlier with the French guy doing the sabotage. That would be completely unregulated. There'd be no way to verify. You'd have to be more careful, but.
Right.
It's another backup. It's another place it's one more thing they have to rip down if they're going to get all this stuff off the internet. So just spreading these seeds far and wide, I think, is the best thing we can do. Get them out everywhere you can.
And I think that's the best thing you can hope for. Yeah, is just to spread them as far as you can. I envision a world where Dinka wants to spread his degenerate Grozen design and he prints up a 10,000 little like flyers with QR codes. And you scan them, and it downloads some torrent app on your phone, and then that automatically starts torrenting his design. And
I'm not going to say that I've. Yeah, there you go. Just drop them out of an airplane.
As you jump to your death from the Empire State Building, you just have a backpack hold and they're flying out.
Yeah. Publicity stunt. I mean, I'm not going to say that I've never left a QR code that goes to the Getting Started guide in geocaches before, because I've absolutely done that.
Right.
It's not the same as jumping off the Empire State Building.
But, no, not as ballsy. It's not as Vietnam monk, but it works. It works.
I'm going to throw out another option for you guys. So what do you think about Bitcoin ordinals or NFTs? So let's say you make a Groveland NFT and it sells for like, who it doesn't matter. But that design, that STL or set file can be an NFT and anybody can see it and it's on the blockchain.
Right, because then you can't pull it down.
I think that's where the future is decentralized. Hey, let's figure out some kind of software that's basically going to run ad eternum that anyone can go look at. And it'll always just be there. It'll survive until the death of the internet, which, that'll make it up about until the point where we're all getting obliterated by nukes. And it won't matter anyways. So
yeah, the trick comes back to indexing and searchability, because like Odyssey's got a huge repository of this stuff, but you can't find any of it.
Right. I mean, I can even think going back to like this is like from the days of like, the 90s computer shows. But if you guys like, I don't know, imagine going to a gun show and you have, I don't know how much but like a 1 terabyte, little USB thumb drive. I don't know how much those cost or how big you want it to be, whatever. You buy like, I don't know, 1,000 of those goobers and just hand them out,
Yeah.
Just hand them out. Like, here you go. Take this. I mean, for the people
who go to SHOT and just hand them out.
Yeah, or any place where there's any interest in this sort of stuff. I mean, you could just distribute it. I mean, physically, just handing it out like people used to. Like I got a copy of what was it? Whatever, some old ass game that doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, it was pirated and on a floppy disk. The guy handed me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
hey kid, you want to play some video games? Opens up his trench coat and pulls out a floppy disk.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just the way it goes, and you could do it that way, or the blockchain, like you were saying, like that's probably a nifty way to go about it, because then it exists in perpetuity, theoretically, for as much as we know. But at the same time, I think we should probably just cut that segment out because you're going to give DEFCAD ideas.
We've gone on for a while anyway. So.
Oh, have they been making NFTs out of like you guys?
No. I just mean this call's been. We're in for an hour. We're pushing 2.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, any closing thoughts before we kill it?
I just want to say that I don't think it's, at least right now, it's possible to really find or force some kind of resolution. So I think the more awareness that we can make that these files are available from the original creators, and that's who you should be getting them from. That's really the what I think is going to have the most impact.
But just spread this info as part of the signal.
Where can they find your files, Clay?
Well, by catalog releases.
I'll be dropping links in the description. So, but yeah, just for
catalog.com, and then there's the Odyssey repository that the catalog links to. That's where you'll find my releases that are also hosted by DEFCAD.
Hostage by DEFCAD.
Held hostage by DEFCAD.
Held hostage, yeah. PLA, any closing thoughts?
I think UberClay nailed it. I'm an optimist. I think that DEFCAD's days are numbered. I think that we are going to continue to grow as a community, and as the word gets out, people will realize that this stuff is free. Somebody's going to come up with going from Keybase to Odyssey was a big jump, and we're going to have something better. And I think that the future is bright.
Nikolai, anything to add to the bright future?
No, man. I think that what hopefully we see as more people get involved, more. I would like to say younger people. Nothing against you older folks, but
We're
the people
hip.
that are more in tune with that, yeah, hip with the kids.
Yeah.
More in tune with up and coming technology and really got their fingers in the industry. Are gonna come up with some great new ideas, like they were saying, come up with something new and better than Odyssey. And while I don't have any files released yet, hopefully pretty soon we should be getting my first catalog release, the Tumansky, done pretty soon. So be looking for that on the catalog.
Excellent. Well, fellow 30-odd-year-old boomer, Dinka, what about you, buddy?
Let me turn my hearing aid up so you can repeat that. I might
I
catch
can't
it
hear
this
you.
time.
I can't hear you
Yeah.
over my broken hip.
Basically what we've been saying. Just there's not going to be. We're coming off the heels of another drama in the gun cat space, which isn't worth getting into. But the parallel being that there's always going to be people that are bad actors, people that are causing problems in the space, and you can't really go after that directly. The best thing to do is just to get exposure, talk about it like this, inform people, let them make their own decisions, and let them know that there is alternatives out there to places that are going to, host your files and without consent and then charge you for them. Let people know that there are other, Catalog, Odyssey, all those other alternatives out there. It's just, I'm not being very eloquent. Speaking about it and getting the information out there is our best tactic, I think.
Right. Well, I guess to sum it up, yeah, you guys, if anybody has any questions for support or anything, what's the best method to reach you? Because that ultimately, when the free software movement came out, that was the goal was, if you release this for free, somebody else could take it and sell it, because like we were saying earlier with the whole free software movement, that's completely within their rights to just sell it. They have a right to sell it. So what you did was you offered support. Why are you going to pay me money? Because I made it. I can support you. I have a manual. I have something of value, like PLA was saying. You have something of value that makes people go to you instead of the third party selling the your labor, basically. So where could they reach you guys if they had any questions or comments or I don't know, wanted to say, hey, thanks?
I'm on X, Twitter. I'm on YouTube, Odyssey, and then at the bottom of the Grozen documentation, it's got my contact details if you want to shoot me an email. Everything's under this name, Dinka Roubles. You can find me.
Now, what about the rest of y'all? If you have a place that people could reach you.
I bop around on social media, but not always as UberClay. So the best thing to do if you want to get a hold of me is to make a Rocket Chat, deterrent dispensed Rocket Chat account, and then send me a DM there.
I'm the same exact way, and nikolai.romanov on the Rocket Chat. I am on Twitter, which I refuse to call X because it's weird.
Based.
My username is, it's not nikolai.romanov, it's something else, just because Twitter did that to me. But yeah, most reliable way to find me on Rocket Chat.
I'm also on Twitter and Rocket Chat and Reddit. I have different varying numbers of I's in PLA+boi. It's because I started with burner accounts and I would forget my password. So they're all different. I'll just have to send some links.
Yeah, sure. And I'll be posting all the links to all their contact and download information in the description. But thanks everybody for watching. It's been a very good first episode. We'll have more to come. Hopefully, some of you guys could come back at some later date and we could talk about things that aren't so, shitty, and actually talk about
down.
Yeah.
Next time we have a release, we get together and chat about what
go.
the guys are releasing.
Something, yeah.
Try the signal that way. Put the
Because
word
yeah,
out.
like I said, it's always anybody who likes guns, they're gonna like 3D printed guns. It's just a fact. And if you don't, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. but it's gonna happen. So yeah, I hope you guys come back for future stuff. If you have any releases, we can talk about it. But for everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.